by title, this is a joint effort and a joint decision. Sally and I have decided to give the presidential awards for both the Wake County Bar and the 10th Judicial District together. This is something that we're really pleased to be able to do to give some special recognition to some folks that did some great work last year. Alice is going to present a plaque, and I'm going to call, Sally and I are going to call some folks forward, and if you just come in front to be recognized by your fellow bar members here. The first person that I want to call up front is Nick Fountain. Nick, if you're here, come on. Nick gets our presidential award this year for his work with our endowment committee. And it's an ongoing work. The greatest part is going to come to bear, I think, on February 27th when we have our gala to raise money for the scholarship fund, but also to provide us a chance of fellowship and to hear about one of the true legends of our bar, Joe Cheshire Sr. And the other thing that happened last year that I really want to thank Nick for, finally our investments are earning something other than 3% passbook savings. We have a great, the funds are well invested and well managed, and I thank Nick for doing that.
Thanks for my new house.
Dan, Morris, would you please come up? Most of you won't know why he's here. He has chaired the Committee on Indigent Appointments, which I also need to appointed was aptly named by my former law partner, as he likes to call it, the CIA. Danny has done something that has not happened before. He's really made it a working committee in terms of looking at the needs of our community and bar in terms of indigent appointments, not just for adult criminal defendants, but for juveniles as well. And he has done an enormous amount to make this a committee that needs to do, and should have probably for a long time been doing the work that it now is doing. So we all should be very grateful to him. We certainly do thank you for your work this past year.
John McMillan, if you'd come up here, please. This past year, the Wake County Bar created for the first time a bench bar committee, and John served as chair of that committee. That chair did an outstanding job because he found a bunch of sub-chairs to do all the work, and that's a classic example of John McMillan's ability to get things done, because what we have a Superior Court bench bar committee, we have a District Court bench bar committee, we have a Workers' Compensation committee, we have the Administrative Law Judge subcommittee. All these things are up and running, and probably the greatest tribute last year, we actually got off the ground under John and with Richard Boyette's supervision, a view from the Superior Court bench, which was an outstanding CLE program that this bar did for its members. And John, thank you very much for that work.
Actually, we'll call two people to come up at the same time because their work is pretty interdependent upon one another. Steve Higgins and Charlie Minton. In varying roles and for different degrees of time and different degrees of intensity. These two people are very much responsible for a program that is the envy of every other county in this state, and perhaps well beyond this state. The Bar Cares program is I use the word envy, and I think that's correct, by a number of other bar associations who are repeatedly asking us for more information and asking these two what they have done and how they have done it. Charlie has been involved since the beginning of the quote quality of life became an issue or became understood as an issue in trying to help us meet the needs of bar members, and he is continuing to do it. Steve has been very active in actually making this particular bar care program a reality. And I think we all owe both of them an enormous debt of gratitude, and both the 10th students of this bar members, as well as the Wake County Bar Association, benefit greatly from what these two men have done. Thank you. I just want to add that there will be one more award, but unfortunately that recipient couldn't be here today, and I personally thank all of you for letting us insert it today since I wasn't able to be here December or January. Okay.
Thank you, Monty. First of all, we have some very special guests down here at the front table that I want to take an opportunity to recognize. And they're friends, family, and supporters of one of our most special guests, Mr. Herman Taylor. But if each of you will stand up when I call your name, we'd all like to recognize you. Mrs. Taylor. Herman Taylor Jr. and wife Brenda. The lady with the video camera and law student Victoria Taylor. Good friends, Mr. and Mrs. Rufus Allen. Mr. Richard Parker. And Ms. Karen Christopher. Thank all of you for being here today. Today is really a very special day. It's a high honor. It's a high time for us as lawyers. It's a time for us to celebrate being lawyers, to celebrate the people who are really special to the practice of law. We have two gentlemen with us today who are fine gentlemen, fine public servants, fine lawyers, and they're scholars. And it's a very special day, and I'd like you to give a good Wake County Bar Association welcome to Mr. Herman Taylor and to Senator Terry Vance. Now, as is our tradition, we have found someone who knows some of the more personal aspects of their professional and personal careers, and we're pleased to have these very special gentlemen with us. First of all, we welcome from Greensboro High Point area, Judge Sammy Chet. And also we welcome a special guest, Mr. Al Adams. At this point in time, I've got the privilege of calling upon Judge Chet to tell us about our friend, new friend, and someone we want to honor and recognize today, Mr. Herman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. It is indeed an honor for me to be here on this occasion. I have the honor of doing what a lot of people never get a chance to do, sit between two of their heroes. I know I'm here to talk about my good friend Herman Taylor, but I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Senator Sanford. I said to some lawyers sitting in the lawyers' lounge in High Point some month or two ago or less that I thought Terry Sanford was a great American treasure. And I want him to hear that personally, and I want you all to hear it. But we are here this time to talk about Herman. I'll talk about the senator some more later on. Herman Taylor is one of the finest men to ever practice law, in my judgment. Herman is not a young man. Herman has been practicing since the 40s. To a lot of folks, they think that the civil rights movement started with my dear friend Julius Chambers, Charles Jackson, Jim Fuller, and others. Herman Taylor was blazing the trail in that arena in the 40s. Herman graduated from Columbia University in 1945. He was on law review at Columbia. While at Columbia, he was a clerk for then General Counsel Thurgood Marshall of the NAACP and later Justice Counsel, Justice Marshall. And he clerked for him the entire 3 years. In 1945, Herman came to North Carolina to teach at North Carolina Central University. After being there for a short while, about 3 years, Herman observed conditions in the state of North Carolina. And he asked himself, where could I do a greater service as a professor or as a practicing attorney? And he concluded that he could help to elevate the quality and standard of life of his people better if he were to leave law school and enter into the practice of law. Some of the boys who are my age know Herman. Herman is a legend in his own time. You hear that said very often, but never has it been any truer than on this occasion. Herman is truly a legend in his own time. Herman practiced during an era when the law was separate but equal. We had a lot of separateness but never equal. This offended Herman greatly, and Herman embarked upon suing the various districts around the state of North Carolina. And he brought action against the University of North Carolina to have admitted black students to the law school and to the medical school. He had the schools built in Robeson County and other counties that were even better than some of the existing schools. But as we all recall, Brown v. Board said that separate could not be equal. And when Herman had won all these cases, had lost all these cases and had appealed to the Fourth Circuit, it occurred to him that there was not anyone in North Carolina who could introduce him to the Superior Court, to the Supreme Court, because that was where he was certain to end up. He commends his opponents in that arena because he went to the then Attorney General for the state of North Carolina, who was on the other side, and asked him if he would not be one of the two persons to sign for him to appear in the Supreme Court and become a part of that bar. And being the gentleman that he was, the Attorney General got his chief associate, and they both recommended Herman to the Supreme Court, to the Superior Court. In North Carolina, we think the Supreme Court, the Superior Court is the Supreme Court. But he was introduced to the Superior Court, to the U.S. Supreme Court by Thurgood Marshall. Justice Marshall, who was then head of the NAACP, came down from New York to Washington specifically to make a motion before the Supreme Court to have Herman admitted. Herman ended the practice of racially exclusion of blacks from juries. He brought suits to equalize teacher salaries in the state of North Carolina. Herman Taylor worked all of North Carolina, just as some of the new lawyers do today, Julius from the mountains to the sea. Herman did that single-handedly. He was the first black to be admitted to practice before the United States Supreme Court in the state of North Carolina. Though he looks to be a young man, he has worked hard in the arena of justice for all. He was honored by the North Carolina Association of Black Lawyers as their recipient of the Pioneer Award. And it reads thus: Herman L. Taylor, Esquire, you taught us the meaning of struggle. You taught us how to fight with our legal skills. We honor you for your inspired vision, your leadership, your years of unselfish service to black people in the state of North Carolina. We honor you for your courage in defending the rights of your people and unpopular causes, for little or no pay, and for your devotion to upholding your profession and the Constitution of the United States for more than 30 years. Done this 27th day of March, 1981. I think that sums up what Herman Taylor has been about in these 50 years of practice. To me, he exemplifies what lawyering is all about. Lawyers must have the courage to do that which ought to be done. As young as I am, that's the law that I remember. That's the law that I took an oath to protect and defend. We don't have as much of that, I think, as we used to when I started, when Herman was out there. Judges called lawyers and said, Herman or Sam or Jerry, I'm appointing you to this case, and that was it. And you gave that lawyer the same representation as if he paid you $5,000, which would have been a tremendous fee at that time. But when Herman did all of this, there were no fees. Many of you probably don't remember, but fees came about in the late 60s. The court ruled that a ruling party maybe that's telling me in my 15 minutes. But there, you must appreciate one who labors for justice. And I know no one who has labored for justice any more diligently than our honoree, my dear friend, Herman L. Taylor.
you, Judge Chess. Great words and great lessons for us all to remember. A very small token of our recognition, Mr. Taylor, if you could stand up here. I'll be getting him up because I hope you'll say a word or two. But we have a plaque to present to you. It reads as follows. The Wake County Bar Association honors you for your 50 years of service to the law profession in North Carolina. Presented to Herman Taylor, February 11, 1997.
I just want to say that I'm overwhelmed by this occasion. The hard thing about it, I've sort of been sick for the last few months. And just yesterday, about 2 o'clock, my doctor called me and put me in the hospital. So I told him, sick or not, I'm going to be here today. So I still have a leave locked up. I got a 3-hour leave when I got to go back to Wake Medical Center. But to tell you the truth, when Walter Brock called me and said that the Wake County Bar was going to do this, I thought he had the wrong telephone number. Because, as Sam said, if there ever was a black lawyer who was persona non grata in North Carolina, I mean. And I never thought that I would live to see a day such as this. But I want to tell the board that I certainly appreciate it. And all the things that Sam said I did, I had no bitterness, and I still have no bitterness. You don't look back. You do what you must do. And go on. Thank you very much.
Taylor, we're still learning. Thanks for both of you. It's also my privilege now to invite Al Adams to come up and share some of the accomplishments of our former Senator Terry Stanford.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. Madam President, Mr. President, thank you, Judge. I couldn't help but think of Herman. He went to Greensboro in 1964. If he would have stayed around 3 more years, he would have enjoyed the episode of me taking the motion to admit black boys to the Wake County Bar Association. Just that. So you left 3 years into that was a great day for the Wake County Bar, as long as you remember. So now I have to tell you a little something about my former partner, Governor and Senator Terry Stanford. And most of his accomplishments, some of them are well known, and I thought I might touch on some that you might not know. He was born, and this is hard to believe, almost 80 years ago in Lawrenceburg. His mother was a school teacher, and his father a business, independent merchant. And the book he wrote when he left the governor's mansion in 1965, What About the People, I have to think about the language. What About the People was dedicated, and I think this is significant. This book is about politics and education. It is lovingly dedicated to my mother, Betsy Martin Stanford, who heightened my interest in education, and to my father, Cecil L. Stanford, who heightened my interest in politics. And of course, that has been the record of our honorees during his public career in mixture of politics and education. And that is the rock upon which this administration stood. education. Governor Sanford went to what they used to call PJC for one semester, at Maxton Presbyterian Community College. Then he went to the University of Chapel Hill and had completed, I believe, 3 years of law school when the war started. And he was then went into the FBI. And he served in the FBI for some 1 or 2 years. And although that was a draft exempt position, he volunteered and enlisted in the Army. And he found himself in the paratroopers at Airborne, and he was in the, he got his boots, I guess they call it, Marines, or not what the Marines are doing lately. But in any event, he was commissioned a second lieutenant, and he appeared in 5, he participated in 5 engagements in Italy, in Belgium, in Germany, and in France, he had engagement with the Battle of the Bulge. Returning to North Carolina after the war, with many citations and medals, including the Croix de Guerre, I don't think I pronounced that right, but it's close. That's the one that when they did it to Jim Dawson, and the fish on both cheeks, the kid Jim would say, well, he kissed the general back. I was very proud of each other. But he came back and finished his law degree at the university, and then went to the Institute of Government, where he was an assistant director for 2 years. And in 1948, he went to Fayetteville and founded and started the firm of Sanford, Phillips, McCoy, and Weaver. Now, for those of you that don't are not familiar with Fayetteville, North Carolina great lawyer, that's Dixon Phillips, who became a leader in North Carolina Law School, and then a distinguished career on the Fourth Circuit, and Donald McCoy, and Stacy Weaver. And at that time, the verdicts in North Carolina were not very long. I remember one time Clyde Douglas got a $55,000 verdict, and nobody could talk about anything else for years. And the judges would say, well, Clyde, you can't do that in the case. But they got in Fayetteville in a wrongful death action, a verdict for $100,000. And they were little, and they asked one of the jurors after the case, why was it that you were so favorable to these issues, so generous in your world? This is almost unheard of at that time. And the juror responded to, well, I looked at that lady, and she's so hungry, I figured she'd never get another husband, so you had to not say that. So it might not fit his legal skill, but it was his legal skill in the fact 12 years of law practice that resulted in the formation of North Carolina Rifle Gas. This is one of our leading gas lines of utilities, and also the Mid-South Insurance Company, which has recently been acquired by Blue Cross of Virginia. In 1960, as we all know, Governor Sanford offered for governor of North Carolina. And that was a hard-fought and extraordinary Democratic primary at that time. There were 4 very substantial things. There was Dr. Albert DeLay. There was the Attorney General, Malcolm Sewell, and there was the former chairman of the Democratic Party, John Lawson. And Governor Sanford won the first primary, and Dr. Lake called for a second primary. And so they had to go through 2 primaries. And at the end of that, he emerged victorious. At the same time, that made him not the chairman of our delegation to Los Angeles, but a leading part of it. And he went to Los Angeles as a delegate to the Democratic National Convention and made a seconded speech for John Fitzgerald Kennedy, not Roman Catholic from Massachusetts, that was running for president. And he must have been reminded of his first political activity that he related to when he was 11 years old, and Al Smith was running, he was appeared with a placard, Bond Paul for Al. So he came by, honestly, as the final city of John Kennedy did not learn it, and he took 12 votes with him in the delegation, and they were called the Dirty Dozen. And that caused almost a sensation. What not happened because Linda Johnson was running for the nomination also. But early on, he showed his courage and his innovative talent, and of course that was a great thing for North Carolina when John F. Kennedy was elected president. Governor Sanford, in his time in office, of course spent a lot of time with the education program. And he had to propose taxes with which to pay for the program, which is something very few people in public life do these days. But he got away with it, and he persuaded North Carolina that the children of this state were informative enough that we should find an alternative source of income. And so the tax was passed by the General Assembly, and he made the most spectacular gains in education in any state at any time in the history. We had a 22% increase in teacher salaries. We doubled the number of teachers. We reduced class size. And that certainly became a spectacular record that all other states emulated. And he was asked to go to all over the country to explain his educational program. There were other things he did that you might not know about. In 1955, the North Carolina Bar Association recommended that there be an overhaul of our court system, and there would be what we call a civil court. It was presented to the 1959 session of the General Assembly, which rejected it. In 1961, after Charles Sanford was governor, the legislature was persuaded to submit my constitutional amendment for court reform to the people. And in 1962, November of 1962, it was voted on by the people. Governor Sanford, at that time, took the lead in speaking for the court reform. And if you recall, back at that time, there were, you were entitled to 1 JP for every 1,000 population, which meant that the city of Charlotte should have 204 justices of the peace, and they were paid only if they held the plaintiff. I mean, it was a pretty bad system. But anyway, Governor Sanford went on, actually on TV, went all over the state, even through Democratic rallies, that fall, preaching about the court reform. And here's a quotation of a speech he made to the Haywood County Democratic Party. He said, I am a lawyer by profession and I respect the profession. But let me say right here, the courts of the state don't belong exclusively to lawyers, and they don't belong to judges. Courts belong to all the people. And he ended that speech by saying, I wonder how many of you have thought seriously about our courts. Although many citizens may never have to go to court, the well-being of all citizens depends to a large extent on the quality of the administration of justice in our state. And he ended by saying, we want to give the judges, the solicitors, the attorneys, the plaintiffs, the defendants, the juries, and the law enforcement officers the tools to provide equal and exact justice in the second half of the 20th century. All that we as citizens of North Carolina want to try to maintain justice in a T-model system, or we want to do it in a system that recognizes more modern times. In a democracy, justice is everybody's business. That's why this court improvement is important to every citizen. And as you know, the amendment passed overwhelmingly in the 1963 section of the General Assembly, again at the urging of the governor's office, enacted the details of court reform, and we will have that ever since. There was another episode that I think is rather interesting. Of course, you know the rest of the story. After he came over to the governor's office, he founded a great firm, Sanford Adams, and McCall, which later became Sanford Adams McCullough Beard. And after about 3 years of the pleasure of practicing law with Judge Stanton, he was called to Duke University to be his president. And I never will forget this one where someone you all know, and I won't call his name, called me up and said, would you urge him to accept that? Said, we know he's interested in presidential politics, and in cite the example of Woodrow Wilson. He was first in Princeton, became president of the United States, and see, you can't talk him into doing that, too. The university really needs it. Well, I don't think it's because I talked him into it, but he did accept the presidency of Duke University, and one of his former partners, a year later, was calling around from the Duke Law and called out the very same lawyer, who announced, hell no, not since I've got it, Terry Sanders went over there. So he didn't get a contribution back there. We don't say who that was. Some of you know who it was. The record goes on. After this, he returned to the law firm, and we only had him for a year because he ran the United States Senate, and he won. And it was the next thing, if you remember, there was a 6-week term left in the Senate Florida. So on the day of the election, he won not only a 6-year term in the Senate, but he won a 6-week term. Well, that was rather difficult for us because the Senate ethics did not allow the senator to remain in the law firm, and if he stayed there another day, he'd be violating the rules. So we had to change the name of the law firm before the national election and eliminate his name because he was the senator the day that the returns came in. And that's in the law. But he did go to Washington and had a distinguished career, and now has returned and is actively again practicing law. And he has now been a member of the Wake County Bar, far longer than the Cumberland County Bar, so we feel especially appropriate that we honor him as we do here today. I want to touch on the fact that this is the first Southern government that told the people in his inaugural address that we had to eliminate discrimination. And Herman, you remember 1960, that was quite a thing to do. All the other states in the South were closing their schools and were doing massive resistance, and it was the forward-looking and progressive aspect of Terry Sanford gave this state to which we owe our prosperity today, more than any other man in this state. It was a national model of people looking to this state and where other people were not at all distinguishing themselves in the national state. There was a thing I would like to end with. When Terry Sanford came back from Los Angeles, he went to on a tour of the mental institute, and he was disturbed at the treatment that our people got that were mentally retarded. He was concerned about those that were mentally ill, and he had gone on to his place, spent a whole week doing that. And he went to Canada, Kingston, and a little 6 or 7-year-old boy, single in there, came across the room. Governor Sanford took his hand, and they had the program, and when the program was over, the little boy said, "Don't leave me." And Governor Sanford said, "Partner, I've got to go, but I'll never leave you." Well, you work for kings and presidents, but partner, you never left us. Good thanks.
Senator, if I could ask you to Wake County Bar Association honors you for your 50 years of service to the law profession in North Carolina. Presented to Senator J. Terry Sanders, February 11, 1997.
Especially pleased to be handed this by you. Your father and I were great friends at the time that he was at Chapel Hill, and as I recall, you were probably still in Diamond. And I'm certainly pleased to have this handed by you. I'm also glad to be here with the members of the bar. I have indeed been a member of this bar since 1965, and I've been proud to be associated with a group of lawyers, probably the finest group of lawyers in North Carolina, certainly in my opinion. I'm highly honored to be here today to recognize that along with Joe Cheshire and Sam Leader and others, that I'm on the verge of lasting more than a half a century. It's great to be with all of you. And I'm especially pleased to be here with Herman Taylor. He was a great force in doing things that needed to be done and in telling the rest of the state what we needed to do at one of the most difficult times in the history of America. Certainly the most difficult time in this century. And I admire his courage then. He stood where he needed to stand, and it was more than he perhaps knew. A sense of encouragement to me to know that we were moving in the direction that we ought to be moving. But I would say to all of us today that we haven't completed that job. We haven't yet done away with discrimination. We haven't done away with the evil effects of prejudices. And I think that today, as we wind up a rather remarkable century where so much has been accomplished, that we still, and I think especially the legal profession, has an obligation to get rid of all of this burden that has held America down and has been the one shame of America. It's a great challenge for us as we look forward now to winding this century up and starting another one. We can do so much better than we have done. We're already proven we can do better if we try. Thank you, and I thank you for the honor, and I thank you for your friendship over these years.
If it doesn't make you proud to be a lawyer, to be associated with these two gentlemen, then you ought to get out of practice because you don't know what you're talking about. They set high standards for us. We ought to try to emulate what they've done, not only in their service to the bar, but to the profession, to the society, to our communities. And let us all remember these gentlemen as we try to do what's right today, tomorrow, and times to come. Thank you for sticking with us, and thank you to these gentlemen, and let's all give them one more round of applause.